Have you ever noticed how all of a sudden everything seems to go wrong at the same time? Relationships fall apart, opportunities disappear, and even the faith that once sustained you begins to shake. And the most distressing? It is the silence of God. No response, no sign, only the echo of His own prayer returning. If this sounds familiar, know that you're not lost. You're being positioned. I am Nathan Solis, and this is the path of the chosen. In the path of the chosen, we reveal the mysteries of the Spirit, where what was hidden from the eyes begins to be revealed to the soul. The truth that almost no one talks about is that when life gets harder for the chosen ones, it is because something from above is being realigned. And it's no coincidence that many older people who have dedicated their entire lives to serving, praying, and caring for others face the greatest trials at the end of their journey. Does it seem unfair? Perhaps in the eyes of the world. But spiritually, it is the last refinement before the reward. A fine adjustment made by a God who does not abandon, only perfects. In this video, we'll break an age-old silence and reveal the spiritual motive behind the hardships the chosen face. It goes far beyond what you were told in church, and perhaps for the first time, you understand that the pain you carry, it is a coded message from heaven. Then take a deep breath, because what comes now may be the answer that your soul has been waiting to hear. God's silence is not absence. It is a divine strategy. Some people think that when God is silent, He has turned His face. But for the chosen ones, God's silence is one of the most sacred proofs that something great is being prepared. It's like a mother watching her child try to walk for the first time. She could hold it, but she doesn't. Because she knows that if he doesn't try it alone, he'll never find his own balance. This silence is not absence. It is a silent, attentive, strategic presence. During the phases of silence, many people give up, because the human heart is trained to respond to noises, signals, and quick confirmations. But the chosen ones are trained in the opposite, in listening to the invisible. When everything around seems to stand still, that's when the divine plan is most active. And it's not uncommon to see someone who has been in this spiritual wilderness blossom in a way that no one expected. It is as if, in the midst of darkness, the root has found the right depth. Anyone who has been through this silence knows. It is distressing, but it is also in this silence that clarity is born. You know that moment when you stop looking for external answers and start to feel something changing inside? This is spiritual preparation disguised as loneliness. And believe me, it is not because God is quiet that He is not speaking. He just wants to see who hears His voice even when everything seems muted. The lives of the chosen are shaped by pain, not comfort. There are people who think that being chosen by God is walking in a flowery garden, full of instant blessings. But the chosen ones, in fact, are molded in the fire of spiritual pain. They are not forged in palaces, but in the silence of the weeping dawns. It is like gold. It only shines after it faces high temperatures. Comfort does not generate character, spiritual trial does. And that is why, the greater the spiritual call, the more intense the stoning usually is. What many people call bad luck or unjust suffering is God sculpting the spirit of someone He will use into something great. It is in pain that the ego is broken, that the masks fall, and that spiritual discernment is finely tuned as never before. Have you ever noticed that the wisest people you know have experienced profound losses? Growing up in pain leaves marks that do not fade, and these marks are exactly the maps that guide others in the desert. And it is not a matter of romanticizing suffering, but of understanding that the path of the chosen one is the opposite of the common path. While the world is chasing for shortcuts, God leads His own along longer paths, because He wants them to see what others ignore. Want a practical example? Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the chosen one learns to ask, "What for?" And then the sky begins to respond in silence. Emotional heaviness is a sign that you're transitioning. You know that feeling of deep tiredness that doesn't get better even with rest? That exhaustion that seems to come from the soul, not the body? This isn't just ordinary emotional burnout. For the chosen, it's a spiritual sign that something big is about to change. The body feels before the mind understands. It is as if the spirit is already being realigned with God's purpose, while the flesh is still trying to understand what is happening. This phase comes loaded with confusion, isolation from the chosen ones, and even fear. Many think they are losing control, when in fact they are being taken to a higher level. The heart races, emotions waver, and old bonds begin to seem out of place. All of this is part of an intense spiritual preparation. The soul is preparing to let go of old versions of itself, and that requires strength that doesn't always come from without, but from within. Those who understand this begin to treat these moments with reverence, not despair. Instead of sinking into distractions, he starts to withdraw. A practical tip? Silence. Disconnect from the excess of stimuli and allow yourself to feel. Write down what's going on inside you. Read something that edifies, such as the Book of Psalms. There are laments that turn into strength. Because where there is weight, there is also purpose. When heaven is silent, hell tries to confuse. It is in God's quiet times that the voices of the enemy become bolder. Hell works in the absence of divine noise, trying to plant doubt, fear, and confusion in the minds of the chosen. When the sky seems silent, it is as if the spiritual battlefield becomes denser. The spiritual pain intensifies and the arrows of deception begin to look like your thoughts, but they are not. They are silent attacks, masked as logical reasoning. This is the time when spiritual discernment becomes more necessary than ever. Because the devil doesn't have to take away your faith at once. Just make him question the voice of God you heard before. He will try to convince you that you are alone, abandoned, that your spiritual calling was just illusion. Therefore, when everything seems too confusing, go back to what God showed you before the silence. What he has revealed in peace will not be erased in chaos. Many who were in the path of the chosen one deviated at this point, when they mistook confusion for direction. So, a practical tip. Keep a spiritual notebook. Write down the signs, the promises, the dreams that you know came from above. Because when the tests of faith come in the dark, it will be that record that will remind you that you are on the right path, even if you don't see everything. And maybe it's precisely because I can't see that something greater is about to be revealed. God is testing your faith in the dark, spoiler-free. Heaven does not always warn you when you are going to apply a test. And with the chosen, this is even more common. God does not anticipate the details of the mission because growth comes from step without guarantees. This is what is called faith in the dark, walking without knowing what comes next, trusting only in the certainty that his hand is still guiding. This is not punishment, it is high-level spiritual training. Those who go through this are being prepared to carry something that requires a firm structure. Do you know when it seems that everything is going wrong? That no one understands your struggle and even your own faith begins to weaken? These are tests of faith, and God, like a good father, watches in silence, not out of coldness, but because he wants to see how far his confidence goes without applause, without visible signs. Many of the greatest prophets lived through this. Job, for example, lost everything without understanding why. But his confidence did not die, even in the midst of the driest spiritual desert of his life. For those who are going through this right now, here's a practical key. Instead of asking for signs, start practicing constancy. Wake up and pray even though you don't feel anything. Read it even without understanding everything. Serve even without receiving. Because faith is not emotion, it is decision. And this decision, when made in the midst of silence, opens doors that only divine revelation can explain. And who goes through these doors? The same thing never comes back. The pain you feel now is the soil where your mission will grow. Every purpose of God is born in torn ground. The spiritual pain that the chosen face is not a punishment, it is fertile ground. You know that feeling of being broken inside, as if everything was out of place? In fact, everything is exactly where it should be. The mission that God has prepared for you will not be born in comfort. It germinates in the earth wet by tears that almost no one sees. Each scar of yours is a root that is digging deep towards its purpose. Many do not understand that the deeper the pain, the higher the mission. It is like a tree. No one notices the roots, but they are the ones that sustain the greatness up there. The path of the chosen one always goes through ruptures, a betrayal, a loss, a humiliation. But what hurt you today? It may be just what enables you to heal other people tomorrow. God does not waste pain. He turns wounds into bridges. If you're in that place right now, don't fight the pain. Use it as fuel. Write, sing, pray, share your journey with someone. Have you ever thought about starting something small, like a prayer group, or even an anonymous profile to talk about what you feel? Sometimes your healing is in the act of healing. And in this soil where you only see suffering, God is already planting seeds that no one sees, for the time being. Silence is the shield of God's great plans. There's a reason why God's great plans are almost always born hidden. God's silence, as disconcerting as it may seem, is often the shield that protects the chosen from the wrong eyes. When he is silent, it is not because he has forgotten, it is because he is hiding. Just as a jeweler covers a diamond while working, God is silent so as not to expose his work before the right time. Noise attracts attention, but silence attracts depth. How many times have you felt forgotten while watching other people being exalted? This is no coincidence. It is spiritual shielding, spiritual withdrawal, lack of recognition, invisibility before the world. All of this is part of God's strategy. God doesn't just want to show you off. He wants you to endure the light when it comes. Because when God's purpose is revealed, it comes with weight, with impact, and the chosen ones need to be ready to sustain that. During this time in hiding, it's vital not to get lost trying to explain yourself. Don't try to prove your worth or justify your pain. Time will reveal. And in the meantime, use quiet time to sharpen your inner weapons. Read Proverbs every day, write down your learnings, practice active silence, the one where the mind listens and the spirit matures. Because when heaven decides to speak, there will be no shadow that can erase what God has planted in you in the dark. You are being set apart in spirit, not isolated by chance. It is common for the chosen to confuse isolation with rejection. But there is a profound spiritual difference between being alone and to be set apart by God. What looks like abandonment is actually sacred separation. When friendships are broken, doors close and invitations disappear, believe me, it's no coincidence. It is the Spirit leading you to a place where the noise of others does not disturb the voice of God. This spiritual withdrawal is strategic, not emotional. The truth is that a lot of what you called a bond was a distraction, and many who walked with you were not prepared for the next level of your spiritual calling. Then God begins to prune, to restrict, to make you appear invisible, but it is only in the eyes of the world. In the spiritual world, it is at this very moment that you begin to shine brighter. But this brightness still needs to be protected from envy, comparison, and emotional contamination. While the world thinks you're gone, God is preparing you for a kind of divine revelation that you can't share with just anyone. And here's a practical key. Embrace the spiritual wilderness. Use this time to immerse yourself, in prayer, in reading, in silence. Start writing down the dreams you received, the signs you previously ignored, because the solitude of the chosen ones is the womb where God's movements are born. Now that you understand the reason behind God's silence and the pain that comes with it, tell me sincerely, you will continue to run away from the test, or will it embrace the purpose that is being forged inside? How many times have you ignored this spiritual call, thinking it was just tiredness or bad luck? What if all of this is actually your moment of divine activation? If everything that has been said so far has touched something inside you, do not ignore this call. Maybe you're going through the quietest part of your journey, and that's where the chosen ones grow the most. The question is, are you going to use this pain to hide or to flourish? If this message spoke to your soul, type in the comments, "Silence polishes me." Now, if it still seems confusing or far from what you feel, type, "I'm still in the desert." This helps me understand where you are on the walk and adjust the next content. Oh, and of course, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and come walk with us. Here, each video is a compass for those who live in invisible war and carries a purpose that cannot always be explained, but that, deep down, is always recognized.